Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I let you know what I thought about them. But first, I gotta give a big warm and welcome to KC. KC just recently joined us over at patreon.com/PCP in support of this channel. KC, we really do appreciate it. It means everything. Station. Moving on, we always start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week: DC Future State Swamp Thing issue number 2. This is the final issue of Future State Swamp Thing. In fact, since it's now February, we're getting the final issues of DC Future State, and then we'll move on after that, right? Swamp Thing for me has definitely been one of the highlights of Future State. This is written by Rom V. It's got artwork by Mike Perkins. It is absolutely phenomenal. I really did like what they established and what they were setting up in the first issue, basically setting up the idea that most of humanity's been wiped out. Swamp Thing's created this race of swamp people, and now he's leading them on a hunt for humanity. And now that they found humanity, what tough, tragic, and nuanced choices need to be made. And Ron V and Mike Perkins just nailed this ending so perfectly. Everything that was set up just more than concludes. It concludes in such a fulfilling way all the way through. The artwork, the story, the character moments, the subtextual resonance of the emotional bits of the story. It was a beautifully tragic story, and I had a lot of fun with it. I had a great time reading Swamp Thing, and I'm so pumped for Rom V and Mike Perkins to continue doing Swamp Thing, starting with a brand new number 1 next month. Anyway, Future State Swamp Thing number 2, by far my pick of the week. Just had all of the weight that the story, it's just unexpected even how impactful that ending was. Wow. Very well done. That's really great stuff, and I think that we have a bright future for Swamp Thing ahead of us. Future State Wonder Woman number 2 by Joelle Jones, Jordi Belair. This one is the continuation and the conclusion of this initial introduction into Yara Flor, the Wonder Woman of tomorrow. She's got ties to South American mythology. They tie in that lore into Greek lore and Themyscira and all this kind of stuff, so it's very interesting. She's got her own personality that's so far apart and removed from Diana that it's refreshing, but it's not too different. As we have found from the heroic nature of the character, that it still seems to have a familiar ring to it. All in all, I think Joelle Jones has killed it with this book. The artwork is sleek and it's nice and it's clean and precise. And then the story, like I said, just the story was a nice, simple story at first about Yara Flor going to the afterlife, going into Hades, the underworld, trying to find one of her lost friends, right? Now, this, just like the Swamp Thing, has got a nice emotional punch for the second half of the story, and I found that rather remarkable. Wonder Woman, Future State number 2, and Yara Flor's journey is not finished. Of course, we still got a few more Future State books that she's going to be a part of, Justice League and Superman, Wonder Woman, but they are going to be continuing her story, and of course they're developing a TV show. The Next Batman, number 3, the penultimate issue of The Next Batman for now, because this is another one, like Yara Flor's Wonder Woman, is going to continue on in some form or fashion, being published by DC Comics. The Next Batman is losing me, and it's losing me quick, issue to issue. I really liked the main Next Batman story in the first issue. It was anchored, I think, by that Nick Darrington, Tamara Bonvillain artwork. Since then, Darrington's been doing the breakdowns. Laura Braga has been doing the artwork, and it's just doesn't feel aesthetically like a lot of the rest of the Magistrate era Gotham books do. It doesn't have that like nice flare and flash and makes it kind of feel like Akira and Blade Runner. It kind of loses that. It feels a little bit just run-of-the-mill. The pacing and everything is still fine. The story's still kind of decent, but the art's just not doing anything remarkable for me. The finale of the Outsider story I did dig. I thought that was really cool. And then the Arkham Knight story, I liked that second one maybe a little bit better than the first chapter, but all in all, $7.99 for... I'm really just... Next Batman's falling out. I'm digging the character. I'm digging the idea of the Magistrate Gotham. but each issue has excited me less. Harley Quinn, Future State Harley Quinn number 2, final issue. Of course, you get Simone DeMeo on the artwork with Tamara Bonvillain. However, we have another artist on the book, and I find that to be rather unfortunate because I really like this book. The other artist is Tony Infante. Not that the art is bad, but it's a complete kind of different style, though they are trying the same thing with the perspectives, but it's a bit jarring for me when I'm reading the story and it keeps jumping back and forth. I thought it was a pretty solid book, though. I think Stephanie Phillips has a good handle on the voice of the character of Harley Quinn, so I'm excited to see what she's going to be doing because she, of course, is going to be the new writer of Harley Quinn going forward, and I haven't been super excited for a Harley Quinn book in a long time. So one good thing that came out of Future State, aside from Ron V on Swamp Thing, probably will be Stephanie Phillips on Harley Quinn. Superman and Metropolis issue number 2 is here. I wasn't quite sold on issue number 1 and not quite sold on the idea that issue number 2's conclusion, which I thought was decently done, makes the whole thing kind of worth it. I like the exploration that was done on Jonathan Kent and his sense of responsibility and his relationship with Kara and Metropolis, and I liked how this story ended, and I thought this second final chapter of it was way stronger than the first. It read a bit easier. It didn't feel so clunky with dialogue and art kind of clashing against each other. So I thought the flow was kind of free and loose in issue number 2, but it doesn't overall make it a super good Superman and Metropolis book, right? Some interesting ideas and whatnot, but I'm kind of glad that this one's over, and I'm excited to see what Philip Kennedy Johnson's going to be bringing to the Superman mythos going forward. And the backup stories, Guardian, it was decent, and the Mr. Miracle stuff, it's decent, it's okay, not worth justifying a $5.99 price tag, at least for me. Future State, The Flash, issue number 2, the final issue of this one. This one has been bonkers. I have not liked this one. The first one, I did not like whatsoever the interpretation of what they were doing. I did not like this finale. Any true fan of Wally West that thinks he's been mistreated is going to be like, this is not the vision I have of the Flash's future or the Flash family's future. But it was, I guess, an okay wrap-up. The artwork was pretty dope. I do like the artwork. It felt fresh and enthusiastic at times, even when the story absolutely didn't. It has an ending that's going to tie in some form or fashion into the Teen Titans Future State, so be on the lookout for that, I guess. But The Flash, number 2, glad that one's over. And you got some non-Future State DC books, like an actual DC proper book. It's Man-Bat number 1. Really good. I was really, really impressed. So it's got artwork by Sumit Kumar, first of all. That's the artist from These Savage Shores, which is awesome. And Dave Wild is the writer. I really like this. So this is a story set like pre-Death Metal. It's set pre-Justice League Dark even. If you want to know how Langstrom is like permanently the Man-Bat and why he's on this road of redemption, I guess that story starts here. So it's a story that maybe should have been already told a little bit ago, but it's just now getting told. But I don't care because especially in a week just filled with some Future State, Man-Bat was a really cool, fun, Gotham-centric book with great dynamic artwork. Sumit Kumar, like I said, was the artist on These Savage Shores, and I love the style. It's got like this angular approach that makes it really just kinetic at times. Some of the scenes that seems like Man-Bat's flying, leaping off the page, at least to me. Maybe I'm overselling it, but I'm a big fan of Kumar's work. I was very excited to see him tackle the Man-Bat. I really liked the story. It understands that we've read the same Man-Bat story over and over and over again, so it's kind of trying to bring it into that cycle, or at least a recognition of that cycle so that it can end and then move forward into what we've already seen in Justice League Dark and going forward. Man-Bat number 1, though, first of a 5-issue series. That was really good. I liked it. I did. From DC Black Label, we have The Dreaming Waking Hours, issue number 7. Very solid issue. The Dreaming has been super solid ever since it was brought back. Simon Spurrier, now G. Willow Wilson. This is the second part of an intermission story. But instead of just being a throwaway story, what I've really loved about these last couple issues is that it's taking elements from the first story, going back to elements from the first story of Sandman, Neil Gaiman's Sandman, and bridging up into the second half and finale of this Dreaming Waking Hours series. Really liked it. Javier Rodriguez is back on the artwork. The designs and compositions are not as intricate as they were in the previous one, but comparatively to other comic books, they're still like next level. But I really liked it still. Thought it was really solid. The Dreaming Waking Hours. Fans of Sandman, if you're not reading The Dreaming, this series, or the one prior to it, you are missing out. I will say. Also from DC Black Label, we've got the final issue of Hellblazer, Rise and Fall. This is Tom Taylor, Derek Robertson. Tom Taylor writes a really good Constantine. He's done so recently in the pages of Deceased. This Constantine, to me, is a great bridge between the more old school, Vertigo-oriented Constantine that we recently just saw in his own recently concluded Hellblazer series, and that every time they try to bring Constantine into the DC universe proper, this is a nice balance between the two. So the stories aren't as deep or as dark. They got a very light, humorous touch to it, but I still had a lot of fun with it. You got Derek Robertson doing the artwork and doing some really cool things with the format, the expanded width of the page. He's able to put a little bit more panels per page and affect the pacing a little bit more than he typically does with his style. He, of course, was the artist on The Boys and Transmetropolitan. All in all, Hellblazer, Rise and Fall, issue number 3 was a fantastic conclusion to a pretty solid Constantine series. Let's see what Marvel has in store. First up from Marvel, we have Avengers Mech Strike number 1. Okay. I didn't even want to read this, okay? This, to me, just feels like a reason to sell toys. It's a story that's designed specifically so that the Avengers have to get into mech suits to fight, right? Okay, so I read it. It's written by Jed McKay. It's got artwork by Magno. That's Carlos Magno. Guru Effects on the coloring. I kind of liked it. It wasn't, super, really good. And it wasn't, the best Avengers book you've ever read by far. But it was... maybe because I had such low expectations that I thought the book was kind of okay. At times, the artwork was really good and solid. And at times, it kind of felt just a bit too cluttered. But the story moved at a fine pace. But at times, it kind of felt like it stunted itself just a little bit. But then it got right back onto it. So it was kind of an average, okay, decently fun comic book that if they did make some toys of this, that would be a hard thing to pass up, but I would have to. The Legend of Shang-Chi, number 1. This is a one-shot comic book put into publishing because there was supposed to be a Shang-Chi movie. That never happened, but that's why we got these Shang-Chi books. But obviously, we're getting ready for this character to see his introduction into the MCU. This is just a simple one-and-done story by Alyssa Wong and Andy Tong and Raquel Rosenberg. It's just a simple, easy... this is who Shang-Chi is, and a nice, fun, light Marvel typical type story involving Shang-Chi. It's just one of these, every time a movie's around, they do one of these things. It's just a one-shot. I'm surprised Ralph Macchio didn't do this one. It was actually better than some of the other ones, though, like the Black Widow one they did recently, and the Captain Marvel one. Some of those, they were not very good. Even the Black Panther one. But this one, it's okay. It's okay. Venom, King in Black, number 33. Venom, number 33. This is continuing Eddie's journey into the symbiote afterlife. Let's just say that, I guess. Really dynamic artwork from Aban Coelho here. At first, I wasn't really digging him on the series back in the days when the series was, brand new and he was the first. Wasn't he, the first filler artist to come in? But the artwork is really clean, super dynamic. There's some amazing pages in this issue that are just wow, just great fanboy, fangirl type stuff to watch and look at and stare at. But Venom number 33 was a pretty solid issue. It's still trying to tug on the emotional strings of what's going on and how that affects Eddie. And it's a very important moment in Eddie's story in the Donny Cates work. A very important moment, I think, is reached here. And I like the way that it's handled, and it's fine. There are elements of this where it's just silly, where they're like, oh, that's this, and it's a physical representation of something that's a little bit more abstract, but whatever, this is comic books, we're used to stuff like that. But Venom number 33 was pretty solid. I liked it. It's definitely the one, out of all the Venom tie-ins, it's the one that's worth checking out, because it's what gives the emotional weight and punch to the Eddie Brock story going on alongside King in Black. Speaking of King in Black, we got a Black Knight one-shot. I was really excited to check this out because Jesus Saez on the artwork. Artwork was great throughout this entire issue, and that's just amazing. He's got a great, three-dimensional type style that feels real but still fantastical at the same time. It's really interesting. Simon Spurrier, though, so I was really excited, and he's got a 5-issue Black Knight series coming out. Obviously, there's an Eternals movie on the horizon, and it's going to feature this character. So this is what we've come to expect out of these King in Black tie-ins, is that it's about this character fighting symbiote dragons, right? And so who better than Black Knight? But I was a little disappointed in this because it had a very goofy, jokey type style to it, and I was wanting something a little bit more hefty and a little bit more serious. So it immediately started losing me because of that. So I didn't really get super into this one. It also felt long and kind of dull at times and over-explainy, and kind of just meandering around just to have like guest appearances and be like, oh, we forgot to fit these characters in a King in Black tie-in, so let's put them in Black Knight or something. So I don't know. It didn't get me really excited for that 5-issue series at all, but it does start making some more nods to the idea that the Ebony Blade is somehow connected in some kind of way to what's going on. Another King in Black one-shot is Marauders. This is in fact not the newest issue of the Marauders, but it is written by Jerry Duggan, and it's decent. It's all right. It's the Marauders on a mission to try to save the X-Men that have been taken over by Null, right? And then they get sidetracked, you know. So maybe they're going to show up in the next issue of King in Black, and if you want to know how the Marauders got from point A to point B, check this one out. Otherwise, it's kind of skippable, but it was actually pretty decent, and I'm liking the Marauders. So it was really nice to see a Marauders story that was a little centric on Bishop, because Bishop's been in almost like all the Marauders, but it just feels like he's not really been there. And he's a great character, and we definitely need to use him. So, and finally, some Pyro. It just felt nice to get back to just a typical Marauder story, even in the midst of the chaos of King in Black. So there you go. Speaking of X-Men, Hellions is here with issue number 9. Wow, it's featuring Mastermind. Mastermind and Mr. Sinister having a war of wits here that I thought was really cool and deliciously clever and fun and humorous. This book has become one of my most looked forward to X-Men books. Like, there are books that I'll be like, oh, Excalibur, oh, I gotta read Excalibur. I guess, oh, I'll read Marauders, sure, I'm liking it, but it's lulling at times. And, oh, X-Force, I'm kind of losing what's exactly who's who and what. But Hellions, every single time, I am so freaking excited to read this book. It is so much fun. These new versions of Wild Child and Nanny and Orphan Maker are, like, beyond enthralling to me. They are like, I'm like obsessed with these new versions of these characters. I've never cared about these characters before, but Hellions maintains its consistency of just being the Expendables of the X-Men universe, but if the Expendables were all the action movie sidekicks or something. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. Strange Academy, issue number 8. That's crazy. We just got 7, so I was really nervous. I was like, does that mean Humberto Ramos is not on the artwork? No, he is. And it's great, and it feels less rushed than the previous issue, which just came out last week. I don't know how he's doing it with his schedule now. All of a sudden, this dude's been nothing but drawing, I bet, during this whole global pandemic situation. Anyway, Strange Academy, number 8, following up everything that happened at the end of issue number 7 in a very delightful way, a meaningful way, and an exciting way. This is Hogwarts in the Marvel Universe. We're getting back to more. I like how they're keeping the focus on school, on the class schedule, on their classes, what they're doing, but they're still wrapping it up in these new characters that are only 8 issues old. I already feel like they're old friends. I'm already incredibly invested, especially in, like, what is it, Draco, Kid Dormammu. Come on, Strange Academy is here with number 8, and back-to-back 2 solid issues. The Immortal Hulk 43 is here. I think when people start saying that Immortal Hulk is lulling, they're talking about issues like this, where there's a lot of interesting ideas here. There's some real nice moments in here, but a lot of it is still characters kind of just talking about what's going on and kind of explaining what's going on and not really moving the story forward. The problem with Immortal Hulk is that, especially ever since the Hulk's gone to hell and back, it's like, it progresses the main story just so slowly. Now, it's meticulous, and all the pieces are there, and they're referencing all of these bits of Hulk history, and I think that's great, but it just feels like it's like they wanted to hit a number, and they had to kind of stretch it out. Not quite a weird stretch, but maybe an unnecessary stretch. But Immortal Hulk, still loving it, still loving those Alex Ross covers. Issue 43, right there. Avengers number 42 is here. Not really a variant guy. I have to pick this variant up. It's the Black History Month variant, but it's my man. It's Blade. Come on. Blade is in one panel in this issue, and he has one line. Maybe two lines. Anyway, so continuing on with this whole Phoenix story, I feel like, honestly, if we want to, like, use the sliding timescale and be like, how long has it been since Avengers versus X-Men? And how long has it been since that Thanos story with it? Like, all that's happened within the last couple years in the Marvel Universe, right? It just seems like Phoenix is just always slingshotting back to Earth now. And now it's like putting on this tournament of all these different heroes and villains in the Marvel Universe, and because the Phoenix wants to pick a host, and this is how they're doing it now. I don't know. Most people are going to hear about this book, though, because it has a rather shocking revelation that Jason Aaron has decided to throw in involving the origin of Thor. So that will probably be talked about, and I'm sure we'll talk about it on stream for Talking Comics Live on Wednesday night. But Avengers 42 was still just okay. Not really digging the book, not really digging this Phoenix thing. Like I've said, I just feel like it's so done. I'm done with the Phoenix. Let's just let that rest for a while, and let's just do something else. Aaron's got a plan. He seems to be taking his sweet-ass time to get there. But this book has been losing me for a while now. Amazing Spider-Man 101 facsimile editions here. First appearance Morbius. Why? Well, there was supposed to be a Morbius movie out around this time. That didn't happen. But this is a great, cheap way to get the first appearance Morbius. And this is a classic, great era of Spidey comics. It's a great one to get and read just for the fun of it. Star Wars The High Republic issue number 2 is here. So I read issue number 1. I thought it was okay. Now, I like Star Wars, the movies and some of the cartoons and stuff like that, but, like, I'm not always the biggest fan of, like, reading all the books and the comics and all that kind of stuff. But when High Republic showed up, I was like, well, this is a new thing. They're trying to do a new era kind of sandwich, I heard, between Old Republic and the Phantom Menace era, so sure, let's check it out. I was rather impressed at how the first issue very efficiently and effectively kind of introduced the story, the concept, the characters, and did a one-and-done story and set up a lot of stuff to come in one issue. This goes back more now into your typical thing where they're doing a little bit more of a longer game. This is the first chapter of an arc, and obviously it's one big arc in and of itself. But this one I just didn't find myself as invested in. It was all right. I think it will appease a lot of Star Wars fans, especially if you like the era with a lot of Jedi running around. There's some interesting mysteries and stuff like that. So this High Republic era seems cool, and it seems like if that's what you want to get into, this is like ground central, this in the book, so there you go. Some new characters I'm sure will be introduced in every single one of these. Was there a new character in this one? I don't know. They're all new to me. I don't know. It's interesting. It's okay. It's getting to some certain bits, maybe a little bit too quick, but it's all right. Maybe I'll try it for one more after this. I don't know. Speaking of Star Wars: The High Republic, we got another Star Wars: The High Republic Adventures number 1. This one's from IDW. This is the same storyline, like the Starlight Citadel, whatever they call it. Starlight Citadel. I think I'm thinking of Starlight Beacon, Starlight Citadel. Whoa, Starlight Beacon, Starlight Citadel. Isn't that Saturnine's place in Otherworld? That's interesting. Star Wars: The High Republic Adventures. This is kind of like an all-ages version of the story. It's got different characters, I'm assuming. I didn't recognize any of them from this one. So I'm sure it's got a bunch of first appearances too, so I bet people will probably be trying to check this one out. But the story itself was just kind of okay. It didn't really ever capture me or captivate me. I never felt myself very interested, and I felt like it was kind of cluttered with the artwork and just kind of with everything going on. Just felt like a little bit messy and not as sleek or as clean as a lot of the Star Wars Adventures books have been. But that's from IDW this week. Also from IDW, we have Transformers Beast Wars. Now, I don't know if I would have picked this up, except for Travis M., I think, was the one on the live chat asking if I was going to cover it. So I was like, yeah, I'll cover it, and I just got the Megatron. I've never watched Beast Wars. I just think that the idea of Megatron becoming a T-Rex is cool. And then there's this cover with the T-Rex there and Optimus Prime. I was like, that's cool. So I decided I'd read it. So I've never watched Beast Wars at all. I was incredibly engrossed in this book. Different versions of characters, but I could run on that, and I guess completely new characters too. But I instantaneously loved the idea of the story. I guess this is retelling I don't know if it's a reboot, relaunch, or retelling or whatever, but it's setting up the whole idea of them going to the Earth in the past, and then they become their animal creatures. But this whole thing is all like prelude to them like getting to Earth or whatever. So it's all set up. But I found it really great. Like the dialogue was flowy. It was nice. It had great, clean artwork. I really enjoyed this, and I have no attachment to Beast Wars other than thinking T-Rexes are cool. When I was in the middle of reading it, though, I was like, man, I feel like I've been reading this for a while, but it doesn't feel like it's a book that's bogged down. You know, it's a page turner, and I look, this thing's $5.99, but it's got a lot of pages to it. But I really liked it. I thought it was really cool. I liked the artwork. I thought it was super clean, celebrating 25 years of Beast Wars, and I think I might try to watch some Beast Wars now. It's crazy. Chained to the Grave is a new one from IDW. I'm not very impressed with this one. It's about this dude who's dead and his wife resurrects him, and now like they're just like living life like normal, but then there's other things involved, and he's trying to get revenge on the person who killed him, who stole from him. The artwork was interesting. It's got some interesting artwork. It's very colorful. It's got a nice, bright, psychedelic type palette at times, but I found it very hard to follow, very hard to get invested in, and kind of a chore to get through. So Chained to the Grave, number 1, I didn't really like that one very much at all. Also from IDW, we have Kanto 2, The Hollow Men, issue number 5. This is the final issue of Kanto 2, and it does a great job of wrapping it up, actually moving the story, progressing it a bit further, and setting up not only Kanto Volume 3, but the bridge to get there. So I really like this book. Kanto has been amazing ever since the first issue. Seriously, David M. Booher does such a great job of getting to the heart of story, the heart of hope, the heart of suffering, the heart of humanity, and telling a story that is inspired by The Wizard of Oz and Dante's Inferno, but it is definitely got its own identity. It's its own animal. It's its own beast. It's a very satisfying ending, both in the narrative and just with the emotional side of everything. Kanto 2 was phenomenal. It was great. The only thing is at the ending, now that they know that they got more series to do, the ending is more of a stepping stone and lead in. But that's kind of fun, and that's rooted in a lot of fantasy stuff. So the story doesn't end and feel necessarily super complete, but it does feel like the end of a chapter and leading into some very exciting things to come. And it has a statement in here about hope and love. And I think it's one of the most powerful statements made in comic books in a long time. Kanto 2, The Hollow Men, issue number 5 from IDW. Sea of Sorrows, issue number 3, pretty much does the exact opposite of Kanto. It doesn't tell us anything about hope and love. It tells us about greed and despair and just insanity. I'm loving this book. It's about these dudes who have like commandeered this ship, or they've hired this ship to like go out and they're trying to find sunken U-boats to find Nazi gold or something like that, and or German gold or something. And I don't remember if this is World War I or II, post-war. It's got to be 2, right? The U-boats. I don't know. Anyway, really liking it. Rich Duick, who's going to be on the channel very soon, so keep an eye open for that. And Alex Cormack doing a great job with the artwork. This is kind of like a spiritual successor to Road of Bones, but it's its own animal. It's its own beast. Wars, man. But Sea of Sorrows number 3's got great, dark, murky artwork at times. There's a look of hopelessness and despair in a lot of the characters' eyes that comes across so well in the artwork. You got Justin Birch rounding out that team as the letterer. Sea of Sorrows number 3. This book is great if you like underwater, psychological, just oppressive horror like that, like claustrophobic too. Great stuff. And the way that Alex used the whites on pages with the snow in Road of Bones, the way that they use the blacks for the underwater scenes, phenomenal. I love it. Sea of Sorrows, number 3, fantastic horror in comics. Speaking of horror in comics, we got a new one, Maniac of New York, number 1. This is by Elliot Kalin and Andrea Muti. That's right. It's the artist of Fearscape and A Dark Interlude. So that initially made me really want to check this one out, and I'm glad I did. I like this book. It's a really interesting concept. The basic premise is this. Jason Voorhees, Friday the 13th. That all happened, right? Then Jason took Manhattan, bloody massacre of New York. Now we are like well, I don't remember if it's 10, 20, or years later, um, and they've never caught him. And he's still out there, and every once in a while he kills more people. So the Friday the 13th movies never ended. They're still going. We never hit Final Friday. He's still going. And this is about the failed task force that's designed to go after him. Basically, after so long, it's just a joke. It's a one person show. So it's this new woman. She comes in there. She takes charge. She wants to do everything, and then she finds out it's all just a joke, and there's really no resources or proper support for this. But it's very personal for her, and she starts building up a team of people in which it's more personal for. Really interesting, very cool. It definitely focuses more on the aspect of the main characters, less on the gore, less on the creepy nature of it, but maybe that's to come. I really did find myself very captivated by this. It did not hurt, though, that the artwork was by Andrea Muti. Deep Beyond, #1 from Image Comics. This one's written by Mirka Andolfo and David Goy, Andrea Brocardo on the artwork. The artwork was nice and cool, but I just didn't dig this one at all. It felt a bit clunky to me with the dialogue. Never grabbed me. I found it a bit hard to follow. The basic premise is that some kind of virus has been unleashed on the earth, and so now people have to like live in like these safe like biodomes or something like that. But then there's like conspiracies within conspiracies and all kinds of different elements and stuff were all introduced, but to me not in a very coherent way. So to me this book was kind of all over the place, and it didn't grab me. I know a lot of people were excited for this one. It's a 12-issue series. I know Mirka's got a lot of fans out there. It had some exciting moments, but at times too it felt very verbose, and it just didn't really ever grab me. So that's what I thought about Deep Beyond. #1 from Image Comics. We have Firepower #8 from Image Comics. Another great issue of Firepower, just continuing to drive the story forward. It is slowing down a little bit now before we get to the next big action scene. But even though before we get to the next big thing, we got action in here and some really cool, exciting stuff. Terror at 20,000 feet or whatnot. But Chris Samnee's doing a great job of moving the story forward visually. Robert Kirkman's doing a great job of not having it be too exposition-y, not having it be bogged down by just people talking. This book's got a lot of movement. It's got a lot of flow to it, and that's not usually something that I attribute to Robert Kirkman books. I think Firepower is amazing. I'm loving it. 8 issues in. This week, issue 8. Fear Case is a new one from Dark Horse Comics. This one is written by Matt Kent with artwork by Tyler and Hilary Jenkins. So this is the exact same creative team as Grass Kings. This was one of my sleeper hits of the week, for sure. Fear Case was a really interesting story. It's about the Secret Service. The Secret Service actually predates the FBI and all that stuff, right? And they still have jurisdiction over certain like older cases or something like that. So there's literally a case that they allow each new team that joins the Secret Service, their first year is spent trying to crack this case, and it's been a case that they've been trying to solve since the beginning of the Secret Service. And it's the fact that there's this thing called a fear case, or just a case. There's a case, and it gets passed from person to person, and it seems like troubled, terrible things kind of follow this case. And when someone gets the case, they have 3 days to give it to someone they hate. Otherwise, it will find itself in the hands of someone they love. So it's got this Ring kind of feel to it, but at the same time, it's a detective story. And really captivating. I really liked this. I thought it was cool. It had a very deliberate, slow build to it, and it was giving you information when you needed to. And then when you get to the end of it, I found myself completely engaged and very much wanting to see what happens in the next issues. Fear Case #1 from Dark Horse Comics. From Boom Studios, we have Luna. Luna #1. This is by Maria Lovett. She was the creator of Heartbeat, and she was the artist on the Faithless series. I like her artwork. There's some really nice psychedelic type stuff going on in here. The story is interesting. It kind of feels choppy at times. Maybe that's part of what they're trying to do through the story, but it's about this woman who is just, I guess, on the road or something, and she comes across this group of like hippies, and then they do drugs and have sex, and then some weird stuff starts happening at the end. I'm really unclear. I found it a little bit fascinating, but at the same time, just never really quite sold me. So, I don't know. The artwork was cool. Some really great composition, some great pages, but it just didn't do anything for me. I feel like it didn't do anything to identify itself to me. Well, this is the kind of book it is. But I don't know. It does have some really crazy artwork. Let me show you this double page spread in particular. Like some really, really cool psychedelic type stuff. Really neat. Fit the flow of the story. Maybe I need to reread it, but I don't know what this book's going for. So maybe that's not saying anything bad about it. From Boombox, we got Spectre Inspectors. This is by Bowen McCurdy, Caitlin Musto. Really like the artwork. It's got a great, simple, kind of like animated type style. Cartoonish, but still grounded in reality. And that's something you get from a lot of Boombox books, which is a little bit more their younger readers thing. It's not really like all ages, but it's kind of like middle grade and up, I guess. But Spectre Inspectors is about these three young 20-year-olds and like a 15-year-old, I think, and they're trying to have the series where they go ghost hunt, right? And then they wind up doing this one investigation. They're not really having a lot of success, but then they just caught a voice on their last show, so they have high hopes about this new one, and then something terrible starts happening. So it had a nice deliberate pace to it. It never felt boring. It was always intriguing and entertaining, and it kept having twists and turns. But overall, at the end of it, it was kind of similar to a lot of other stories. It didn't really do anything to define itself, to stand out. So maybe I'll revisit this one. Maybe I'll come back on issue 2. I don't know. I did like the art. I liked the story. It just never really reached a level of distinction for me. I don't know. They Fell from the Sky is a new one from Mad Cave Studios. Really like this one. This is definitely another book, kind of like bite-sized. That's a little bit Gremlins, a lot E.T., and a little bit Batteries Not Included. But it's about this kid who finds a ship that's crashed on Earth, and inside's a cute alien, right? That's pretty much the first issue, because most of the first issue is set up building the life of the kid. And the creators do a really great job of fleshing out this kid's world. The artwork is very cartoony, very animated kids type style, but it fits the tone of the story. The character in the story, they were instantly compelling and engaging and relatable. And then it gets to what the sci-fi element. And I was actually kind of excited to see what's going to happen in the future of this series. They Fell from the Sky, issue number 1 from Mad Cave. Had a lot of fun with that one. But, it's about this kid. He's, like, bullied, and he's going to find a new alien friend. It's very E.T., but not in a bad way, in a great way. And we'll see where it develops, because surely it will find its own distinct voice and story. But really did like the first issue. Liked it a lot. From AWA Upshot, we have Redemption. Redemption is a post-apocalyptic dystopian western, right? That's it. That's what it is. Starring, it's like if it's Linda Hamilton. She's like this badass, old, just like western outlaw. In this world, she's got like robot stuff on her hand. I don't know if she has a robot hand. Yeah, this dude is drawn just like Lance Hendrickson. That's what Mike Deodato does. But it was all right. It was interesting. It didn't do anything in the first issue beyond what typical Western stories like this do to really entice me. But the art was pretty sleek, and it was nice. And you can see, because once again, Mike Deodato likes to kind of cast people in these roles. That is straight up Linda Hamilton. That is straight up Lance Hendrickson. So all in all, it's interesting. It's got some cool stuff. If you like Westerns and you like a different kind of twist on it, like I said, a little bit dystopian, a little sci-fi, it was pretty solid. This is definitely going to be one that I'm going to continue to read. And this is by Krista Faust. I think she's the one that did Bad Mother, I think that may be the exact same creative team as Bad Mother. But I thought it was really solid Deodato artwork as well. Man's World issue number 2 is here. I'm liking this one. It's about these broy dudes that like go to a resort planet, because this is set in the future where you can go to resort planets, not just islands. And they go to this resort planet, and the whole idea to get there is to go out and hunt all these alien creatures, right? And be manly and all this kind of stuff. And then, of course, their ship taking them to their site crashes, and now they're literally in the wild of this world. And so it's about this group of friends having to try to make their trek back, and then coming across some trouble. And I really liked issue number 2. I thought issue number 1 was a decent setup, but they did things in issue number 2 that I did not expect to happen, did I not see coming. Very violent and grotesque at times, so I had a lot of fun with it. Man's World #2 from AWA out this week. Resonant is here with issue #7. We chatted a little bit about this with the writer David Andre last week here on the channel. Check out that interview if you haven't already. But Resonant #7 is a fantastic issue. Skylar Patridge's artwork is becoming more defined into the tone and theme of Resonant. It's building up, it's getting the characters back in certain places, it's moving the story, and it's doing it with a very family-centric way. The heart of this story rings so true all the way through. This is a book about empathy. This is a book about greed. This is a book about humanity. And that's something I love. It's got bits of the Odyssey thrown in there. We just found out from David Andre, which I loved. Thought that was great. Anyway, Skylar's best work on the series yet. Jason and Darren continue to do what they do best, which is providing nice, rich texture. This makes this book almost an audible experience. And David Andre just really nailing the pace, the flow, the tone, the characters, everything. Loving it. Resonant #7, top tier book from Vault Comics. We also got Engine Ward here with issue #7. This book has had a slow, deliberate build up to this point, and I'm really excited. This is a book that if you have the patience for it, it will definitely reward you. It's intricate in its political nature. It's intricate in the world building. It's about these 12 celestials that are based on the Zodiac that rule over the people of Earth like centuries after they've left Earth. Earth is a distant memory. Nobody even knows about it anymore. They've got their own new mythology. They follow these 12 rulers. These 12 rulers are overlords, basically, taking all of the wealth for themselves and leaving crumbs, and literally they're having water shortages. They're withholding water from the people. And then you have this Engine Ward who's out there with an ancient relic from humanity's past, which is this cyborg head, and in it is information to find the Terran seed, what they need to uncover the truth and overthrow these evil celestials. Really cool stuff, delicate world building, good character work, and a nice, slow, deliberate build all the way through. Engine Ward #7 out this week. And from Black Box Comics, we got Devil's Dominion #1. This one's finally released. Bueller's been pumping this one up for weeks and weeks and weeks. So I got to read it, and I thought it was pretty decent. It's about this lady who's been possessed by a demon, but she's kind of got it under control, so she uses her demon powers to go hunt down other demons. Now, there's obviously a mystery about her past and how this has all come to be. You get hints here and there dropped, but it is leaving a lot to be discovered in future issues. The artwork was pretty solid. I actually like this. I thought this was a really solid book. I really was impressed with the artwork and the flow through it. It had a nice, fun, kind of like B-movie feel to it, but it was very earnest with its character work, and I applaud it for that. Devil's Dominion #1 from Black Box Comics. So that's what I read. That's what I thought. What are you reading? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Please do like, share, and subscribe. Click the notification bell so you don't miss a single video. And join us over at popculturephilosophers.com for podcasts, blogs, and a whole lot more. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading.